But before everything, this morning I wake up and and I see the press briefing in New York where Blasio. Did you guys see this video of Blasio where he is literally bribing the people of New York to get the death dart, the jab? They're saying if you get the jab, we're going to give you some French fries and a cheeseburger, and that's what you like. So no lie.
Like how far up the planning team were they like, guys, this shit isn't working? And then there's one guy just scratching his head.
Right,
He's like, all right, give him the French fries and the freaking cheeseburger, dude.
Wow. It's what I imagine that like behind the scenes of an SNL skit looks like, hashing it out. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
we'll just put you we'll put you at the podium. We'll like eat the fries really oddly. Like even the way he was eating it was so unnatural. Yeah, he was like eating.
And you know that was cold
burger. Like,
you know they were cold.
He was trying to be like PC about the burger thing too. He's like, I know not everybody likes burgers, so just for the burger people, like, come on.
We do have a bitch vegan option for those of you who also.
Wow.
Oh, it is clown world. There's so many clown emojis right now. It's hard to believe. And I spoke to a friend who I just saw him pop up on a post that I had put on. I wrote him and I was like, hey, how's it going? I hadn't heard from him since like October. And we described it as what's happening as feeling insurmountable is that there's this like, snowball effect, momentum and masses creating. And it's like he said there's two ways of stopping it. You create something and equal force, to put an end to it, or you let it go kaplat and then, and let it play out. And it's like, do we have the man and women power to create that equal and opposite force? I feel like I see a lot of you and people like us and then people in the comment section, but like, how willing are we to get dirty and get out there and like stop this, because that's really what it's going to take.
100%. That's what I made that video about today, man. And it was the whole point of it is if you need proof that things are not where they should be, they didn't let you hold your dying relatives' hands while they died. Right. They lived here for 70 years on Earth, and their last 6 months to a year was isolated, and they died alone for something that you never elected them to control.
We did it out of politeness, and people keep saying like, there's a way to go about this, and I'm like, screw that. You know what I mean? We've been polite. We've been made other people comfortable for far too long by letting the boundaries of reality be pushed further and further into where nothing matters anymore. Candace Owens called it, what did she call it? Oh, she had this really good term for it. She calls it post-reality, but she also calls it something else like woketopia or something.
Well, woketopia. No, she does call. I heard that the other day on her live. She said woketopia. I like that.
I know she has many good things, and Lou and I were talking about this back in October, and he was like, this is a color revolution. They've divided and conquered on so many elements, and we're so naive and such polite people that we're like, oh, okay, 23 genders, that's cute, fine, do your thing. And it's like, oh, okay, like BLM, yeah, of course, and then like burning the streets down, okay, and like it got too far, and we can't be polite anymore about it.
No, it's time. It's time. Everybody, it's time to hit the streets. May 15th, there's a huge movement that's happening where nobody's wearing masks anymore. We're just done. Okay. I'm done doing all this dumb shit they're asking us to do. None of it's for our health. I know that it might have started out that way, and I was happy to comply for the first 15 days. But I'm sick of this shit. And nobody's wearing the masks correctly anyway, which I can go into 5 hours of this. And you can go through the MIT studies, the Stanford studies, the former vice president of Pfizer telling you that all of this stuff is ridiculous. And because it's not the approved point of view, regardless of how many credentials are behind it, people are like, well, that's not the truth. Bitch, you don't get to decide the truth because it's not coming out of the mouth that you like.
And then today, I just have to read this tweet from fake President Biden. After a year of hard work and so much sacrifice, the rule is now simple. Get vaccinated or wear a mask until you do. First of all,
choice. He goes, it's your choice.
And it's exactly my body. My body, my choice. Okay. But what's hilarious is just the virtue signaling from the last couple of months where you have a man, him and his entire staff, his cabinets, vice president, all of them, the fake vice president, I don't like to call it the illegitimate ones, they have been vaccinated and they've been rocking double masks for the last couple of months. It pisses me off so much because what they're doing is they're trying to control the people with fear. And the fact that children are still masked in school all over this country when the science is out, we know it doesn't affect them. What it is literally children abuse. And Samita, you've been hitting on this. And I really want you to talk about what you're doing right now in Arizona. And I know, by the way, I'm going to put on a quick plug. Tomorrow night, Friday night, we're doing an uncensored conversation on Telegram. It's going to be a voice chat. Ross is going to be there. Samita is going to be there. It's going to be, there's 9 of us, and we're going to be talking about stuff that we really can't talk about here because we don't want to be deplatformed. So, but
and
Samita,
also actionable steps to take, because that's the biggest thing. Everybody wants to know what to do. So hopefully this will be an informative thing. So, okay, so what's been going on in Arizona is I moved out here to get away from California and so that my son could go to school in person. I found a great charter school that, it's Montessori, it's great. And then as it turns out, they're still wearing masks. So when we went to tour, the kids weren't wearing masks because they have mask breaks. And it was like, okay, do I want to start a war as soon as I walk into this place? At first I want to get my kid educated, what, and I put it on the back burner, got moved in. And then one day my son, I got a call from the school and they're like, your son won't wear a mask. And he tore it up and he threw it on the ground and he said, my body, my rights, my choice. Wow. I should be able to decide. I don't want to wear a mask anymore. And no, he's like a kid of
you.
But he's a kid of Instagram and he's like my body, my rights. I've never said that in my entire life. He found that on some TikTok, I'm sure. That's bad parenting, I know. But,
how old is he?
He's 8.
I love it.
He no longer has a TikTok. But, after that, I was like, when are they going to, not have to wear them anymore? So then I got involved with the mask issue in Arizona. I found first was the World Freedom Rally that is also happening this weekend on Saturday.
Yes.
And through that, I met a bunch of mothers who were fighting the mask mandates. I participated in this 11,000 signature gathering to present to the governor. We presented it. Our kids came and spoke. Callan, my son, got up on the stage and was like, "Doocy, doocy, doocy. It's been a really long time since I've had to wear masks. And when are we going to be able to see our friends?" So he really lit the fire because I'm not wearing a mask, and I'm like, he hasn't complained about it that much. Maybe I always tell him wear it on his chin. But once he went to battle, I was like, I have to support my kid.
Come on.
I really wanted to share those videos, but I also didn't want to pimp my kid out and make people think that look at my activist child that I've created, which I have. Very shortly after, the mask mandate was dropped in Arizona, and we were like, hallelujah. But then we took our kids to school and they still have to wear masks because as in every state right now, for some godforsaken reason, it's up to the districts and the teachers, the school board.
The school board, which is really the school union, because that's all they give a crap about.
Right. And primarily the people in power have a liberal agenda. It's just the weird way it is. Weird. It's not weird. It's happening across the entire nation. I found out that, and again, this is I'm new at this school. I didn't know any other parents. When I spoke to them, there was a lot that didn't like the mask, but they're like, kids, they'll be okay. So I was like, okay, I'm in this on my own. I have to be an example for my child. I will do whatever it takes to stand up for his rights because I've done the research. I've read the studies. It's bad. There's bacterial pneumonia, there's styes, there's dentist teeth issues. I mean, they're just a psychological thing. There's just
psychologically, it's child abuse.
It's child abuse, and also the kids are smart enough from a very young age to know this dirty piece of cloth is saving me from what, and it's like no, it's not. But just do it anyways, and I'm just not okay with that.
Right? Yeah, I'm so sick of the just do it anyways. No, I don't stop at green lights either, dipshit.
Ross is fired.
I'm say you're fired up. So I went to the Zoom school board meeting. I read the NIH Stanford a researcher who did the study that everyone's like, no, that's not real, but it talks about it. It's on the government website. I read them the conclusion. I said, you really need to consider the liability that you're going to have to, take responsibility for on these children, because you don't know what you're putting them through that hasn't been discussed. You're just doing it, and they're like, yeah, okay, no, and voted me down. So, based on what I had experienced in a year of being in Los Angeles, from BLM to Trump rallies and everything else, I'm like, I have to make noise. That's the only way I'm going to get some attention. So I wrote them back and I said, for a Montessori school, which is based on individual learning, creating this mass mandate to everyone goes against what you're about. And, and it's an awful thing to implement, and I'm going to fight it. And I'm going to be outside protesting every day until you stop. Now, I made that decision knowing that there was roughly 3 weeks left of school. And then people were like, why? It's only 3 weeks, just, and in my head, well, I have leverage at this point to hold over the schools next year. So what that means is schools get funding through the students, right? So if you don't enroll your kids, they're not going to get the funding. Wow. And so that's the leverage that parents have right now. With a few weeks left of school, if you don't tell me a definitive answer, I'm not going to enroll my child. I went out there, I made signs, I found the right little corner to get on top of, and as soon as I started doing it, parents started to be like, wow, thank you so much for doing this, and there were a lot of people that wanted to be involved in it but didn't want to be the a-hole out on the street, right. Protesting for mass choice, and I don't have a problem being that a-hole. Yep. So it's gained a lot of momentum. I've gone back and forth with the district or with the school board.
So are you seeing any leeway? Are you starting to see more parents now hit the street?
Yes.
They're okay.
Yes. Yeah.
Take notes. This is it. All it takes is one.
Yes, and actually I had seen a video, and maybe you posted it, I don't know. Robbie Starbuck posted this video of this guy saying all it takes is one person to start a revolution. This is hippie dude
in the field.
Was that you that posted it? One of you guys posted it. Was that you, Hunter? Was that you, Lou?
Yeah,
was that you? You posted it, right? Yeah. So, and it's basically it's just one person out there making an ass of themselves. Finally, another person joins in, and then it's a whole gosh darn party.
Right.
Yep.
So that was really what was okay, I'm going to do this. And parents have started joining me, and then there's not everybody has the same way of approaching the issue. So it's just like what we're doing. It's like not everyone's going to get on their Instagram and say how corrupt everything is. Other people are going to be more discreet about it, or are going to be more methodical about it. So there are parents behind the scenes writing to the school, and what the most amazing thing, as I said, I don't know what it says, but there hasn't been a lot of budging from the school board at all. I told them I wouldn't be co-parenting with them and that my son wouldn't be wearing a mask. They try to accommodate. His teachers are great. They don't want masks. So they're trying to accommodate him as much as possible, but a large part of the day he ends up spending outside because that you can only be outside without a mask. Yeah. So I feel so bad. He got this wrap around, one of the worst masks there is. He wore it for 2 days. He already has a sty in his eye. Wow. So, okay, that's all happening locally. What's happening throughout the United States is that I've been in contact with so many mothers who have finally had the courage because they see other examples. You see the moms at the school boards standing up with tears in their throat, and more and more people are doing it. And it's a domino, house of cards sort of falling effect. And I think that, like I said, I am willing to leave the school. It's unfortunate if I have to, but they've already tried to tell him that the ice caps are melting and the polar bears are going extinct. So I'm like, yeah, maybe it's time for him to get his own education anyway. but I'm also so stubborn. I said I was going to be there until you gave me an answer. So I'm not leaving. You know what I mean? I'm so over being on that corner, but now I have developed a QR code where you can take a picture of me on the street with this big poster.
I love it.
And then go straight to the petition. Today was the first day I did it. Nobody brought out their camera to take a photo. So it can be a fruitless job, but I think a number of of scales. It's like my son's seeing that people will go to fight for his freedom, and you know, across the United States, mothers are saying, I have some say and power in my child's existence.
Right.
And parents,
Right.
You know, so
well, we have to get to the point where I don't know where the men are, but it's a shame to see that women are the only ones standing up to this, especially to the schools. Like, men have become so battered with all of this terrible liberal ideology that no men are standing up like they should be in these scenarios. Like, you don't get to tell my son to put something over his face without consulting me first. I don't care if you're Joe Biden. I don't care if you're Dr. Fauci. I don't care if you're Vladimir Putin. I'll decide what goes to my kid's face.
Right. Yeah, fortunately, in particular, there are a number of men here, but I do hear what you're saying, that it does seem like, you know, you would think that they would be the first ones to be like, hey, no, put a lid on it, you know? But
well, and I think the main thing to, like, and this is something that Trump he said this so many times, and it's such a played out phrase. Courage is contagious. And, you know, Trump started that, like, and I've said this a lot of times as well, is that what Trump did was, you know, he exposed the media, he pushed back against the swamp, he exposed for what DC really is, which really woke all of us up. Because a year ago, I was focusing on my career, I was in music. The last thing I thought myself that I would be doing is talking about politics on Instagram Live 4 times. It's the last thing. But what happened is that Trump woke up a bunch of sleeping lions. And so what people would probably call us 2 years ago a sheep, I think it's a great reminder for all of us, where it's like what we would think is there's a ton of sheep out there. There is. But at the same time, there is a lot of sleeping lions. And it only takes one lion in a community like what you're doing right now in Samita, going to the school board, you're protesting outside. Lou, the video that you saw, that you posted, which everyone, after this Instagram Live, go to Lou's Instagram profile, go to his story, and watch the crazy dude in the field. It's going to be one guy, and the whole video is literally about how the first follower is actually one of the biggest leaders. Because when you have one person that steps out, there's that one person that's like, who's going to be the first person to back this person up? Because I don't want to look stupid. But the moment that first person takes that step, it's easier for the second person. And then you start seeing this huge crowd come around. And that's what we're seeing all over the country. Here in Orlando, Seminole County, 25 minutes. It's crazy. Even though I'm in Florida, in Seminole County, which is 25 minutes down the road, all the kids still have to be masked up, and the parents are livid because this one county, which is most of Orlando, they have Facebook groups, hundreds of parents. They're all organizing. They have woken up a bunch of sleeping lions, and it's spreading. And it's just amazing. It's so encouraging to see that. I would say the one blessing that we have with the Biden administration right now is that conservatives, they've woken up. We're not just going to business.
It's so easy. It's so easy to tell now. Oh, everything went to shit quickly. Why is this happening? And then the media is just like, it's not Biden, dear God. And we're like, well, it's something.
It's Trump. It's what we were left with. I've heard that so many times. Well, it's what Trump left us with.
Yeah, are you kidding me, dude? Like, oh, is that why you're rebuilding the border? Because Trump left you without one?
Right.
So Lou, I want to hear your story real quick. I know you do music. You're in the music industry as well. But then you've been posting a lot about politics recently, and I do want to talk later on about your recent video about how you don't support BLM. Is the politics thing new for you? How did this happen, and what was that? How did you come to it?
Politics is very new. My opinion before was that the government was corrupt. I didn't believe in voting. I believed that voting was a vote for the system, and the system's corrupt, so I vote. You know, the Illuminati picks the presidents, so I didn't participate in that type of stuff. Like, that's where I was at with it. So it wasn't until I asked the question on my page, when was the last time you heard about an unarmed white person being killed? Because what I saw was so much anger and rage being generated from the George Floyd thing. Kind of like what happened when people watched When They See Us. Right? Yeah. People are like, did you see that? Did you see that? I'm like, why would I want to be upset? You know, because to me, all that stuff is marketing. It's not entertainment. It's marketing. So I don't like to be manipulated through marketing, because I use marketing. So I don't like to, you know what I mean? So I don't like to participate in it. So when I saw the George Floyd thing, what I tried to do was counteract stuff like that with try to positively make people think. So I post something on my page at that time like, what color do you think your soul will be when you die? You know what I mean? Because I feel like that puts people in the right frame of what we are and all that type of stuff. So that's, people didn't really want to participate in that, of course, because they're upset. So, you know, at that point, I start to ask the question. I'm like, well, let me look at this. I'm thinking about it as a marketer. It's always a black person. It's always a white cop. I wonder if black cops kill white people. I wonder if cops kill white people. I know they probably do, but do they kill unarmed white people? So then I go and do research. And at this time, I had no idea what like liberal or conservative, I didn't know what any of that type of stuff was. So I found the Washington Post. And I'm reading the Washington Post. Now, the Washington Post just sounds legit, right? It's Washington Post. Like, it's like the most traditional name you could get. So I'm like, all right, I know this is legit. I think I heard about this place before. So I'm looking at the statistics, and then I pull them up, and wow, more white people killed by the police. Wow, but unarmed. That's the filter I need. Unarmed. Wow, more unarmed white people killed by the police. I wonder if anybody knows this. So then I go to my page like, hey guys, good news. Down. You know,
yo. You guys can pack all this shit up. We're good. We're actually good. And you just get slapped in the face. What?
Exactly.
And you met the mob, bro. I bet you met the mob.
I did for the first time. For the first time I met the mob. Like,
you're Uncle Tom. You're a racist. You're a white supremacist. You hate black people.
But you made this video about BLM at the same time that I started speaking out about BLM. One of the videos that made me really confident to do it was, and because we ended up doing a video together, but he has this excellent breakdown of, like, you can tell he does a lot of research. He gets into data, he gets into reading books. Like, he does more than most people do, you know what I mean? He came so equipped with information that I was like, okay, everything that I got to through like sort of a half-heartedly attempt of like figuring things out, he verified and then beyond, like with how BLM was set up, and you know that they're obviously that they're Marxists. But tell them about that one video. That one video in particular where you're sitting in the car and you're like, okay, do you remember? The book that you read.
Oh, Color, Communism, and Common Sense. Yes. That
Color
book.
Revolution.
Ooh, that one right there, I had no idea about. Up until that point, I didn't know if communism was good or bad necessarily. I didn't know what a Marxist really was. I just know that, you know, the girl had said that, and I'm like, so what is a Marxist? I couldn't really pinpoint it or whatever. And then ironically, I come across somebody, they left a comment in Angela Stanton's page, and they were like, y'all should check out this book. And I'm like, whoa, that sounds crazy. So then I go and read it. It's a quick read. So I read it all in one day, and everything, it's almost as if you could just switch out the names of the organizations and the years. It's the exact same thing. And when I read that, I'm like, this can't be true. Somebody wrote this today, and they're just putting his name. They're putting a guy's name and the story on it so that we believe in it. So, because people do stuff like that. That's what I was thinking, because it was so accurate.
Right.
And I'm reading this, so then I have to go and do a search for Manning Johnson and see if he actually existed. Was he actually a communist? And this dude existed. He's actually a communist. He testified against him and everything. I'm like, wait a second. They're using us to create like a civil war type of thing to cripple capitalism?
Yep. Oh my gosh.
He cracked the code.
You like, swallowed the red pill.
Yes, 100%. And see, that was.
So how do you feel, Lou, that your family and your friends and your followers responded when you said, guys, look, this is what's happening as a black dude? Here's what it is. Do you feel like there's been any open ears or some, or what would you say?
You know, the funniest thing, up until about maybe 2 or 3 months ago, I wasn't really sure. You know what I mean? I like, there was like a few here and a few there, but it got to a point where I could see it. Almost like that video about the lone nut, right? What happened for me was somebody sent me a tweet, and Candace Owens, it was a tweet from Candace Owens, a screenshot from Candace Owens, and she was literally saying the same thing that I had just said on my page. When was the last time you heard about an unarmed white person being killed by the police? And I was like, because when I saw that, my heart sank. Because I'm like, whoa, I'm saying the same thing Candace Owens said. Because up until that point,
100.
Only thing I knew about her was bad stuff. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
Yeah, I heard that she was the smartest dumb person that you would ever hear. I heard that she had Kanye deceived, and that's why he was wearing the MAGA hat. I heard she endorsed Trump, things like that. When I saw that, my heart sank, because I'm like, wait, am I tripping? Because I mean, this is genuine what I'm doing. I went and looked at this research. That information is there, but this person is saying the same thing. So am I tripping? And I literally responded back to the person that sent me that, and I was like, yo, all I know is black people don't mess with her. And the person was like, hey, listen, all I know is after I listened to this video, I've been on a rabbit hole ever since. So I watched the clip, and it's interesting because it was Candace Owens versus T.I. I watched that same clip a year before. When I watched that clip a year before, I was like, T.I. got her. I don't remember what he said, but I was like, T.I.
Really?
Yes.
That's so interesting. You watched the same video a year before, and you left that video saying, "Oh, Candace is exactly what we thought she was, and T.I. won." And then you watched it again a year later, and now like it's like the scales of your eyes have come off. You think different than the average person where you're asking questions, and before something hits, where did that come from? Did that come from your parents? Did it come from a mentor? Like, because that is not normal.
Honestly, it came from, let me put it this way. I will give that credit to my mom. I feel like I got the best mom in the entire world, the entire universe actually. But I will give that credit to her. Honestly, one day I woke up and I was in a really, really bad place in my life. I woke up one morning and I heard my thoughts. I heard myself speaking negatively about myself. Wow. And when I heard that, it dawned on me that that was my glass ceiling. I could never get above that person that I thought that I was. And from that moment on, I sought to understand how my mind worked and how I work and all that stuff.
And take personal responsibility.
Exactly, yeah. Wow. From that point on, it's just been building and elevating.
It's funny when you get to a position. I used to work with a lot of 17 to 23-year-old guys that would come out of jail, and a lot of them would continue to be like they were until they hit bottom somewhere, and we're like, it is so painful to stay what I am. That I have to do something different to get something different because I can't deal with the pain. But until it becomes uncomfortable and you become aware, and you know, the problem with a lot of this weed and a lot of this, nothing wrong with weed, do your weed. But I'm saying a lot of these drugs and everything is that it's something Jordan Peterson and Joe Rogan talk about is when you have like your timeline of your life, when you're happy with yourself, and then when there's some things that you should improve, a lot of the times is when something is not going right, you go down because you're unhappy with something. And a lot of the people start medicating there and never deal with the thing that made them come back up.
That's
and it's
good.
like, look, you have to have times in your life where shit gets bad. And you go, I have to just sit here raw and feel what I hate so much so I can do like actual surgery on my habits, on my personality, and a lot of that comes from the Lord in my and Jordan's experience, because the Lord kind of gives you a really good clarity about what's wrong with you and then gives you hope instead of what can really feel like a lot of defeatedness sometimes. But, and I think that what's happening, they're pushing, and what that does is it creates victims that are pro-victims, because you never go, I got to get up there. You're like, nah, it's cool down here and I'll forget about it till tomorrow. That's why I'm seeing everything that's being pushed from the left is you're a victim and medicate. You're a victim, medicate.
And it's so interesting because Marxist ideology, like you can't separate them from communism. They're like, they have the exact same thing, but they do not exist without atheism, without taking people away from their faith. And the reason why is because Karl Marx knew this. And I just finished Candace Owens' book, Blackout. And she talks about this in the book, how that Karl Marx knew that his ideology would not infiltrate and take people's brains, and the movement would not grow unless people would stop becoming dependent on their God that gave them the strength to take that personal responsibility. And instead of it being focused on God, it was focused on government. And so you bring them to a place, and that's what this whole thing's about. When it comes to BLM, when it comes to race, when it comes to COVID, the vaccine, everything. Right now, you go to a Yankees game, they have the vaccinated section and they have the non-vaccinated section. Everything is about division. And then eventually they want God out of everything. And that's the whole purpose. And what's so inspiring about your story, Lou, is that you had that moment that are like, hold on, like I have to stop. And that's like, if people just take one night to be like, just question. And I always do that myself, even with what I believe today, even as conservative values. I'm like, hey, everything that I believe, what Trump says, what conservatives say, is there stuff where like, am I just adding to the echo chamber? Is there points on the left that, I'm not being sympathetic enough, like, or whatever it is, are the facts not all on my side? And that's one thing that I think we all do. We all should consistently do. And a lot of conservatives do, which is why a lot of conservatives disagree. And Democrats are perfect with messaging because they all just align with higher Hitler, especially when it comes to Latinos and in the Black community. Like, our core culture is so conservative. Like, God is everything.
Yeah,
Family is everything. That is the core values of who we are, as from going back hundreds of years.
Yeah.
And they have duped us into this Marxist ideology of me. I am the government. I am here to help you, and I am your God.
Yeah. Can I say something about that real quick?
Please.
One of the most interesting things that I found, there's a hidden or missing century of African American history in America. The century between slavery and when we got civil rights, there's a missing century there. As far as our progress, we hear all about the bad, but we never hear about the good. We did some really amazing things.
Yeah, you guys had you Black people had a higher marriage rate than white people did for like a 40-something year stretch.
Exactly. Those things like that. The fact that when we were much poorer than we are today, we had a lower homicide and crime rate. And one of the things that I found was so interesting about that was the reason that was at a time where people were poorer, but they could still walk the streets at night without worrying about being robbed by a neighbor, was because of the moral standard that they had.
Yes.
That was the power of being backed by or having a religious grounding. The fact that people actually were God-fearing is the reason that they didn't do certain things. And we have obviously lost that in our community, which is why poverty is breeding crime, because what actually happens is crime breeds poverty. So what we have now is poverty breeding crime because there's no moral standard that's integrated.
And one of the biggest reasons for that is because when, I believe it was Lyndon B. Johnson, brought in the welfare state.
74.
In 74, when he brought the welfare state, it was that moment, because at that time I believe it was like 72% of in the Black community, they were not divorced. Like, the fathers were in the home. When the welfare state happened, what that did was, and people don't realize, is that it encouraged the fathers to not be fathers, and it encouraged the mothers to want to depend government. I am your God, not God is my God, and we have to keep our family together. So people that was, and if you just look at the stats from that year, you just start seeing it go all the way down. And when you take fathers out of the home, we know what happens. If I didn't have my dad growing up that taught me personal responsibility, taught me all the values of my faith in God and who I am today, I would not be here, like 100%. What has happened in our communities is a direct effect of fathers, parents, and the policies that would have happened from the 74. It's
the policies, man. The freaking policies. And the Republicans didn't help with some of that. You know, up at like in the 80s, there was a couple things that they did that were like, dude, like, so when you combine the war on poverty from Lyndon B. Johnson with the crime bill that Joe Biden put into play, it was basically create unfathered people, and then when they act out, arrest them for harsh and charge them harshly. But there was some stuff that the Republicans did in the middle of that timeline that kind of compounded that some. So, and like everybody in this page knows, we're not just Republicans. Like, we're conservatives, meaning like we just kicked Liz Cheney out.
We hated Republicans 4 years ago.
I honestly, I don't have a political affiliation. But, and this is the thing, I don't know anything about the politicians. Nobody really likes them on either side. It's the people. And that's the thing people don't understand. We don't care about these dudes sitting in the office because it's the people that got the power. And it's the values of the people, because these people in office pretend to have the values of the people. We don't care about them. You know what I mean? Like, that's what people they fail to realize. We don't really identify this. I didn't know this because, of course, I'm new here, right? But we don't really identify with the people in the offices too much. Only a few of them really make us proud.
I think we're all new here, though. You know, like you said before. Yeah, totally. Jordan said this a few lives ago. It's like, none of us trusted any of these people or cared about any of these people until we got woken up. Literally, like, you know, like just
6 months ago, a year ago.
Trump.
Yep.
That's crazy. So we all knew here. That's crazy.
Oh no, dude. I didn't. Me and Ross. This is crazy. Ross 3 months ago had 300 followers and didn't post about anything on social media about politics.
Wow. Except Facebook, which lost me all my friends.
And I think the reason why is because conservatives, and one of the reasons why we are where we are today, is conservatives were not a part of the civic process. we didn't care because we were making money. We were doing business. We cared about our families. We care about we're entrepreneurs. We're out in the workforce. We're taking care of families. That's what we do. Yeah. But then none of that matters anymore. The moment you start realizing you're losing your freedom, you start losing the First Amendment, you start losing the Second Amendment. You see, listen, you want to know what America could be if the Second Amendment is gone and our First Amendment is gone. Look at Colombia right now. Look at Canada right now. Look at Austria or Australia right now. If you go to Ontario, Canada, New Zealand, you go to Ontario, Canada, you cannot leave your house other than for essentials. They're on a house lockdown. We just saw a pastor get arrested for having a church service. Yeah. And people like this will never happen in America. But the people on this left that are pushing this Marxism, this communist movement, that is where the goal is.
Like, think of this, everybody, for just a second. They cannot leave their house knowing what all 300 of you that are watching, knowing what you know now. Wouldn't you say that's inappropriate?
Excessive, yes.
Like not just inappropriate. Like, what the hell are you doing to people? Yes. This is what we do to people when they're in prison. Yeah. Why are you doing this to human beings who pay taxes to you and are supposed to be semi-free? So everybody that wants to act like it's premature for conservatives to be making jokes about like getting guns and getting ready, you've proved everything that conservatives have been talking about and conspiracy theorists have been talking about for 70 years when they've been like, let me get my bunker, let me get my guns, I hate the government, you ain't telling me what to do. All that makes a shit ton of sense now. Like, we're never going to have to make another Second Amendment argument because you can just go, oh, you remember that summer when BLM kept attacking all the businesses, even when they spread the blood of a dead police officer over their door, hoping for Passover by putting the words black owners. Didn't matter. Your shit's getting burned and we're stealing it.
Yep. No, it's so true. And that's why, and this is why we're still not forgetting about the 2020 election. Like, because we can't, because if you don't, and who told me? Bella told me this. I was on the phone with her 2 days ago. And she goes, "Do you remember?" She's like, "If people just would go back to all of Trump's interviews and watch them up to January 20th, he left so many messages. Like, do you remember back when in the State of the Union, right before he gave Rush Limbaugh the medal, the medal?" He goes, and he had the president of Venezuela that was supposed to win stand up and honor him. And because he knew that, and it's all Dominion stole that election in Venezuela. And he had him stand up and say, "You are the rightful president. It was stolen from you." But that is what communism does, because they know that the moment they can steal your election, Lou, what you were thinking, our votes don't matter. We're now there. Right, if we don't fix 2020, what you believed that is true, and we have lost our values. And so what's going on, and this is so funny, every time there's a bombshell going off about the election, you see this huge distraction, this news cycle, and it just happens. And if people have to realize the gaslighting in the media, their job is to keep us distracted of what is really going on, because if the tables were turned, we know that what's happening in Arizona right now would be the number one story all day, live stream, every single segment.
Picture in picture,
So can we talk about that just for a little bit? Because, man, holy crap, it's 9:45.
Well, so they just did the Maricopa County where they were supposed to get the passwords from the county so they could continue their audit, and the county's like, we don't want to give them to you, and then they're like, well, we need them, and then a week later they're like, all right, well, to be honest with you, we never had them. Dominion actually has the passwords, and it's like, and then Dominion's like, I'm not giving you this shit. They just announced that they're not giving it to you, and then guess what happened?
Just now, an hour ago.
And then Maricopa County goes, all right, we got to get together and talk. Emergency meeting, everybody.
Well, no, okay. So the reason why so this is all breaking. Like right now as we speak, they're having this emergency meeting for 7 p.m. Pacific, which is in 30 minutes. 4 p.m. Pacific. So it's like 2 hours ago. Maricopa County just called an emergency meeting because what just broke like 4 hours ago was that the auditors are going now through the ballots, because before they're going through the machines. Now they're opening the they're going to the actual physical ballots, and they'll say, 500 ballots are in this box. Well, they get to there and there's 420. They go to the next box. There's 500 supposed to be in this box. There's 410. And they're right now, they just went through all the ballots. 17% of the entire election is missing.
Yes.
17% of the ballots are missing. And the Maricopa County audit Twitter, and they just released a statement and saying it is a very high likely chance, based off just these 17%, Trump won Arizona. Obviously, this isn't official yet, but guys, I'm telling you,
it's happening. It's
happening.
It's a red wave. It's gonna happen. If you think people were hype in 2016, bro, you just put them in a basement for a year and shit on their business and shit on their oil. These MFers are going to be back at the White House again with every relative that they own.
I'm telling you, Trump is waiting because he knows this news is going to be dropping. And I just saw, I believe it was Anna Kate yesterday said that there's a whistleblower that's about to come forth in the next 3 weeks that is going to shake this nation over the next 4 weeks like we've never been shooken before. And so when these stories start coming out and Arizona falls, watch Michigan, watch Georgia, watch New Hampshire, and it's going to be this domino effect. And when this starts breaking on a mainstream level, because even Trump said in a statement 3 days ago, he said, it's all going to come out. It's going to be so blatant that the media is going to be forced to cover it. And when we're at that point, Trump is going to start his rallies.
When we're at that point, guys, it is going to be the best I told you so day in American damn history. All of your family's getting a pie to the face, bro.
So, but what's the process? Like, this has never happened before. What are the steps that, does he really get back into office? Like, what do we?
In his words, he just said that when a jewel thief gets caught, they have to give the jewels back. That's what Trump just said. So I think it will come down to the Supreme Court doing something. And then if the Supreme Court doesn't do something, I think there will be so much upheaval by that point. If everything can be proven and 75 plus million Americans are going, no way in hell, because it's not like Joe's a little different than Trump. This isn't like, It's like, dude, you told Virginia just said that they're not going to let people do math past 11th grade math because there's not enough black people doing it. Like,
you're trying to dumb us down, dude.
Dumb. Like, these are big problems that are affecting people, and people do not want that type of mindset in the White House if they didn't earn it.
It'll be a domino effect, and that's the thing. I don't know if we know exactly what takes place, which is kind of
I don't know.
It's not going to be, and again, it's going to give us more courage, but at the same time, it's going to be scary as hell because, I mean, the real question, and Bella said this too the other day, she said, what's really going to be the scariest more than anything is the way the military sides, because you're going to have, she believes that there'll be a split in the military, which could be a very scary thing because we don't know. Do I trust the Supreme Court to stand up for us again when they didn't? I probably don't. Because the same powers that be that had them by the neck and the throat, they're still there. And the deep state is real. And Trump talked about this on a podcast. He said the deep state is real. He even mentioned the cabal, which I was like, that's like conspiracy stuff. That was on a podcast. It was with a girl from Fox News, like main podcast. I'll find it and I'll send it to you. But if you just watch his interviews and read his statements, he is optimistic like you would never believe. He's too optimistic.
Yeah, he did say, don't worry, it's going to be okay. I'm like,
he did.
Really?
It's going to be brighter and better than ever. I'm like, dog, we just got 14 million more people in the country. You sure? I mean, I made up that number. But, like, there's enough reason for you to not be optimistic, Trump, unless you're just being a salesman. But you know what? Everybody that wants to shit on him and say, well, he's a salesman, he might lie. He's the damn good one, baby, because he got all of us, and we're voting again.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's so true.
Okay, I'm just gonna say the elephant in the room, which maybe isn't an elephant, but only to me. But I'm a little bit wary about the vax push. That
let's talk about
pushing it out. Well, no, just like he's put in his own words the other day that he's the god, the God
Operation Warp Speed.
He was the father of these vaccines, which I'm not like I don't think that it's great to push out something that's so experimental, especially for children. So I have like this cognitive dissonance. Was like, yay, Trump, and then I'm like, wait a minute, I'm upset about this other piece. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
I agree with you.
I think it's interesting that, everyone's like, oh, Republicans are in cults. And it's like, if that were the case, we would all be lining up for Trump juice. You know what I mean?
Exactly. Exactly.
Many of us are not. But I do think, I wish he'd say something about that. You have Ivanka out there getting shot up for the gram.
Yeah, he used to talk to Robert F. Kennedy all the time and, kind of was a little more on the real woke side of being like, oh, so vaccines in general should be looked into, that's kind of the way it used to be, and now he's like, go get it. It's like, dog, why are you on Big Pharma ding dong like this?
And what I hear a lot of is like, well, he has to play the game, and I just, it doesn't sink in as truth to me, and I haven't quite figured out what the truth is, but it hasn't hit yet.
Well, if you do remember in the beginning, he was pushing hydrochloroquine hard. I can never say the word. Yeah. He was pushing it hard. And I think what he realized, and I talked to, it was Linda, Wake Up with Linda, about this the other day. And she said, listen, it is kind of playing the game in a sense, because she said, in our echo chambers, it feels like everyone that we know and we talk to, they're all anti-vax. But the majority of the country, probably 65%, and there's a good chunk of conservatives on that side, are pro-vax. Now, I'm not saying that, everyone's pro-vax on this, but basically what from when she's talked to people at Mar-a-Lago, they're like, if Trump went against that, then everything would be at risk of everything that isn't planned. And I don't know if that's a good answer or a bad answer.
It makes sense. Again, that might be the thing that would lose him 25% of that chunk, and then
exactly. And again, this is the thing about conservatives. We're free thinkers. We don't have to agree. Go look at after this Instagram live. Go look at Ivanka Trump's Instagram when she posted her pictures, and look at the comments, because you're going to see every comment that she's getting clowned on. She's getting clowned, and that's what I love. Everyone's like, everything that Trump says. What exactly you said, Samita? That everything that Trump says, you guys just line up and say what and do what. No, because if that was the case, all of us would have got the shot already, and
got pictures and got a tattoo.
Exactly. Real quick, we got like 7 minutes. Lou, so I saw a video that you just dropped. You just posted. You said you no longer support BLM. I don't think we have time to go into all of that. What I kind of want to know is, how have you been with this transformation, specifically with your family and your close friends? I'm guessing you guys might not agree on race and might not agree on vaccines or how have you had those conversations in these last couple of months?
Most of the time that I hang out with my friends, certain parts of my family, I won't say their names, whatever, but most of the time when I hang out with my friends, it doesn't necessarily come up. Recently, I've been bringing it up. And with one of my cousins, I've had multiple conversations in person. And every time we talk, we end with mutual respect, whether we agree or not, which is why I continue to talk with him. I had a conversation with him and another one of my cousins at the same time. And it was very interesting because after this time, me and this cousin had spoken about 3 times. And it was so interesting because he was able to answer the questions from this cousin.
Wow.
So he's been listening. And the things that I've been saying have been clicking to the point where he's able to be like, nope, actually, he didn't say that. They clipped the clip. They cut the clip too short.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's
you know what I mean? So, yeah, that's it. So that's what I'm saying. A few months ago, that's when I really started to be like, wow, it's happening. Because a year ago, I was like, oh, no, I said the same thing as Candace Owens. So a year ago, if it could happen for me, one by one by one, it don't happen with the masses all the time. It's just one by one. So, yeah.
I love it. No, it's encouraging because right now, I mean, from what we were talking about earlier with how divisive everything is, I mean, I really believe like, I mean, the vaccine is just, I don't, again, we've seen the stories of people taking the jab, but more than anything, I really believe that coming from like the bigger perspective, this is another way to now divide another group of people. And we're seeing that with families, we're seeing that with friends, we're seeing that with conservatives and liberals on both sides. Like people have different takes on it, and it's just another way to divide.
Yeah.
And it's the
if you think about the human attention span in like a really practical way, because I've never when anybody used to say that, I used to be like, what are they trying to divide and conquer? I mean, it made sense, but I never thought it through. Like if there's a tiger that's aggressive, and you pick up a stool and you hold the stool at it, because the stool has 4 points, it's like overwhelming to the tiger, and it just sits down and relaxes. Okay, so the same thing happens to you when you're not actively able to see what big government is doing to you, because you're focused on the left over there, or the right over there, or white people, or black people, or the natives versus the original British colonists, or whatever the thing is that you're going for. And then fear, like, are you vaccinated? Are you not? You're dividing attention so that people can't make concise things and keep their priorities straight. You are not capable of, as a human, to keep your priorities straight without you noticing it. And most people don't even have these kinds of thoughts. They just live life. So anyway, that's why it works for them.
No.
Yeah, no, that makes, go ahead.
Samita, go ahead.
Okay, that makes sense, because just even the way that I responded when I saw Biden's tweet today about like, it's your choice if you want to wear a mask or get vaccinated, congratulations. My visceral response was excessive. You know what I mean? I'm like, we're going to war.
For real.
But really, as you were talking, like, what's really important is what's going on with the audits. You know what I mean? Not the freaking tweet. Didn't we learn that with Trump? It's
so true. It is the most important thing, and everything is a distraction for that, because it scares the shit out of them, because they know if Arizona falls, and then when the people start hearing like we're hearing today, hold on, 17% of the ballots are gone?
That's crazy.
Where are they? And who's in that 17%? How much of that 17% voted for Biden? Because I guarantee you it's going to be about 99.9%, because we already all know that this dude that's in the White House is a fraud.
Yeah.
And don't let the media gaslight you.
Yeah.
Watch the audit, watch Trump's statements, watch the people that are around him, because they're making moves. And again, I'm not saying that Trump's going to get back in the White House. I'm not like, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying there is people are optimistic. They have hope. And right now in this time, it is very hard if you watch more of what the media is saying and you get in that news cycle and that echo chamber. It's hard. It's tough. But if you turn off the mainstream media, you turn off the news, you get engaged. Who said this last night? Someone said this on the live last night. They're like, I'm done debating with people. Like, I'm taking all the energy, the 8 hours a week that I would have debates on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram, and I'm taking all that energy to do two things. One, read and study our history, read and study the facts so that I can get educated. And then two, I'm going to go down and I'm going to start pressuring our politicians on the local level. We're going to hit the streets. We're going to start showing up at city council meetings. If I'm going to debate anyone, I'm going to start going on their social medias and start following them. And this is what we're going to talk about tomorrow night, because tomorrow night, Friday night, 8 p.m. Eastern, we are going to talk about how to, in a practical sense, how to pressure your local government officials on a practical level. We're going to give you a document. It's a PDF document. It's going to give you the 3 steps of how you're going to engage, how you're going to mobilize, organize, and we're going to teach you every single step. We're going to go over it. We're also going to talk about some of the election stuff. We'll talk about COVID. We're going to talk about other topics, but that's going to be the main reason that we're doing this tomorrow night, because we want to teach you guys how to get involved in the process and learn to do what we're doing right now. So with that being said, I want to give all of you guys quick 30 second or 1 minute final thoughts, because we got about 5 minutes left. We'll go Ross, Amita, and then we'll end with Lou.
Well, I think everything you're saying is good. People are going to have to get uncomfortable, and but you guys feel it real quick. There is a fire on this.
Yeah,
it almost feels divine, where it's like there's an organic push that's happening from everybody's actual soul. And look, when the truth is like a lion. When you let it go, it defends itself. And when you're on that side, you just feel like all you're doing is sitting in the chariot and the horses are pulling the weight, because we have the weight of truth behind us about this thing, guys. And that makes us not afraid of debates. That makes us not afraid of confrontation. And that makes us not afraid of how far this thing can go, because our country was made on sacrifice. Anyway, the colonialists were really, really uncomfortable. I'm reading all about them right now. We need to be a little bit more uncomfortable. This is good.
Yeah, it's such a really quick. A lot of people are asking, where is this live going to be? Tomorrow, if you click the link in my bio, there's a Telegram link in my bio. It'll take you straight to the Telegram group. And then there's a voice chat. It'll take you where you can basically hit a reminder. So when we go live, it'll notify you. It's going to be in a Telegram, so it's uncensored. And we're also going to give you a link where you can actually join the video stream too. If you want to watch us on video as well.
You guys are awesome. And so you guys really lifted my mood. And I think just to piggyback on what Ross was saying is that, I spend so much time like hyper focused on the momentum of like the insanity and the hypocrisy, and like you can really burn out on all of this. And I had to really remind myself today, and like several times a day, is to leave room for God, because that's that divine motion.
Come on.
That's you know what I mean? Like I can't multitask, multi-manage, make all this. There's no me in this that's gonna make the final effect. You know what I mean? It's
great
greater
reminder.
That's a good point.
Spirit that's gonna bring it all together. And just for me, I know I have to ease up a little bit and be like, okay, God's got this.
Yep. And we are his hands and feet, and so as long as we get filled up in the morning, even if it's like 15 minutes, I'm telling you, when you start your day with just like a 5-minute prayer, I'm telling you, it goes a long way.
And listen, all you lefties out there that might be listening to this like 6 months from now, we're not saying go pray so that you can get strength to shut down the left. We are happy to debate with you where we think you probably are deceived because they have wooed you some kind of a way. We're not just saying we want to dominate you and think the Lord is helping us on our holy sacrilege.
Definitely.
Yes.
It's definitely not about domination. It's about balance. We
Yes.
just balance back,
Yes. Yep, that's such a good point. Lou.
All right, so I want to say an experiment real quick that was done that kind of shifted my perspective on some things. So there's an experiment done where they took a group of people who were optimistic and a group of people who were pessimistic, and they had them watch these slides, right? Equal number of wedding slides, equal number of funeral slides. But the people who were optimistic, they reported that they saw more wedding slides. People who were pessimistic saw more funeral slides, right? So your general perspective, or who you are, your personality, whatever, it shapes your perspective. So one of the things that I learned to do was in the mornings, I wake up and I try to reorient myself, right? Because one of the things that I feel like is being pushed is like a spirit of Antichrist, right?
Come on, bro.
Now we can, I don't want to go too far, but let me just, the way I look at it in a simplistic form, we're supposed to be spiritual, not carnal. Though we're incarnate, right? We're supposed to be spiritual, not carnal. So everything that is being pushed, it makes you focus on everything that makes you relate into your carnal self, right? Because that's what fight or flight does. Fight or flight makes you more human or more carnal and less able to focus on spirit or life or thriving, right? Puts you in survival. So one of the things that I like to do is remind myself that spirits can't die. I have no need to fear death. Everything is perfect because all of this is God. Everything is perfect. It's all in order. So I really don't have to worry about it. I don't really have to worry about getting out there and putting my hands in it too much because I'm inspired to move when those times happen. So it's just that I remember that I am spirit first.
Yes.
And I'm going back to where I came from when I leave here. So the issues on this planet are perfectly organized by God already. You see what I'm saying? So it's like it keeps my perspective straight so that I'm always fighting as a spirit. You know what I mean?
And that's what Paul says.
Paul
Paul says we don't battle flesh and blood. We battle spirits and principalities.
Yeah, and if you think about it, that seems the way. Like, this is overwhelming, Jordan. Me and you talk about it all the time, having to kind of talk about everything, but it takes away that sting of overwhelming when you go, oh, I'm in the basket. I don't have to peddle the things. I just have to be present and be like, the best thing you can do on earth is be you at a good balanced version of yourself. It's like, whenever you ride the mountains or dig in the valleys, it's probably not the best times of your life. You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah, no, it's so good.
Awesome.
Well, guys, thank you again for doing this.
Thank you.
You guys are the best.